Good evening, everyone. My name is Rodney Hakeem, and I welcome you to the latest episode of New York Shakespeare Live. We are live here on Instagram on Monday night, August 8th. We are right in the middle of peak Shakespeare season right now. For those of you who have watched our past episodes, you know that July and August are what I like to refer to as peak Shakespeare here in New York. Why? Because there is the highest concentration of Shakespeare happening all around town in as many different formats as you can think of, and it's all happening all over the place. So much of it is free. Right now, the two biggest names in the world of Shakespeare in New York are, of course, the Shakespeare in the Park from the Public Theater, and they are about to reopen just in a couple of days on Wednesday, August 10th, with their second big Shakespeare production of the season, and that's As You Like It. And also across town at the Park Avenue Armory, there's a huge production of Hamlet starring the British star Alex Lawther, and that's still going on. And there's tons and tons of other Shakespeare happening around town. But before we dive into everything that's happening in the world of Shakespeare here in New York, let me welcome all of our new guests who are joining us here tonight. We have a jam-packed episode for you here tonight. We've got 4 wonderful interviews. We have the Hudson Classical Theater Company. We have the Fringe Festival. Forgive me. That's something that we'll be discussing. That's a Freudian slip, because that's one of the things I want to talk with those guests about. I'm sorry. We have the Frigid Fest. The Frigid Fest with our friends Era Ziv and his colleague Connor Mullen. And we also have from the Stairwell Theater, we have Sam Gibbs, as well as Hilary Dennis from the production of Hamlet. The latter two guests whom I mentioned are both part of the LaMama series, LaMama Shares, each with their own separate show. So even though a moment ago I alluded to the biggest Shakespeare festival that's happening in New York, and that is Shakespeare in the Park from the Public Theater happening in the Delacorte Theater in Central Park, there are also a number of other festivals happening around town. There is about 45 minutes to an hour north of the city, there is a very popular festival called the Hudson Valley Shakespeare Festival, and I had a chance to catch their production of Romeo and Juliet a week or two ago, and we'll be talking about that. There are a number of other big things happening around town, 2 of which are, of course, the Frigid Fest downtown, as well as the LaMama Shares series, and those are appeal to the downtown audience, but there's a lot of appeal to people all across New York. For those of you who are joining me for the very first time, if I didn't introduce myself, my name is Rodney Hakeem. I'm the voice behind the New York Shakespeare social media feeds, and our purpose is to bring you as much Shakespeare as is happening in and around New York as we possibly can, whether that is stage performances, film screenings, book releases, podcasts, whatever it is that pertains to Shakespeare that's happening in or around New York. We try to bring as much of that content to you as we can. And that is all across social media. That is right here on Instagram. That is on our Facebook page, our Facebook group, where perhaps our most active location is our Facebook group. And you can check us out on there. We have multiple posts every day from all kinds of different groups, things that I post, things that other people post. So there's a lot of stuff happening on there. I urge you to join us on there. We're also on Twitter. We're on LinkedIn. We're on YouTube, WordPress, and pretty much all over the place. And you can catch all of our past episodes. We have a live episode right here, right now, tonight, but we also have numerous past episodes, Instagram live discussions like this, and we also have panel discussions, we have classes, we have live performances, we have all kind of past episodes, and you can check those all out for free right here on Instagram, or you can head over to our YouTube page, and many of those are on our YouTube page as well. So again, that's New York Shakespeare all across social media. If you are joining us again for the first time, the way that the program is going to work here tonight is I'll continue with my introductions here for just another couple of minutes, and then we'll launch into 4 sequential interviews. Again, we have 4 fabulous guests, and each of them will be joining us for a chat of about 10 to 15 minutes. And in between there, we also have our popular segment that everyone knows and loves, and that is I'll show you mine if you show me yours. And you can guess by the cheeky title of that what that's all about. So before we launch into our very first segment, let me throw up an image of tonight's program. And tonight, again, here are the fabulous guests that we do have joining us here tonight. There is Nicholas Martin Smith of the Hudson Classical Theater Company. They are in the midst of their production of Macbeth right now, and that is going on the Upper West Side in Hudson River Park. In addition to that, we have our friends Erez Zib and Connor Mullen, and they are from the Frigid Fest, and that's downtown. Erez is the head of the Frigid Fest and also a number of other organizations that have been regulars downtown and have been creating downtown theater for years and years and years. In addition to that, again, we have Sam Gibbs from the Stairwell Theater and Hilary Dennis of the production of Hamlet, both of them as part of the LaMama Shares. Sorry, my tongue got tied there. The LaMama Shares series, and again, we'll be speaking about them and their festivals in just a few moments. If you notice at the bottom of our page, we have a chat section. So feel free, whoever is joining us here tonight live, whether you are one of our guests, whether you are one of our viewers, feel free to drop your comments in the comments section. If you have questions for any of our guests that we'll be speaking to, you can drop those questions right in the comment section at the bottom of the page. If you have anything that you want to share, any ideas, if you want to volunteer to show me yours after I show you mine, then by all means drop that information in the comment section at the bottom of the page and just give us your reactions, your thoughts, your feelings as to what you see, what's happening, if we miss anything in the world of New York Shakespeare. Before we go into our very first interview, something I do want to talk about is I mentioned the Hudson Valley Shakespeare Festival, and they have their big season right now. It's a big to do with their production. They have a lot of exciting things happening. They are in their new permanent space in the Hudson Valley, which was gifted to them, 98 acres of beautiful land up there in the Hudson Valley, and they are shifting from their previous location at the Boscoville Restoration into this new permanent space, and they have a 3-show season. They have Romeo and Juliet, they have Where We Belong from Madeline Sayed of the Woolly Mammoth Theater Company, and they also have Mr. Burns, which is a post-apocalyptic version of The Simpsons, which somehow relates to Shakespeare. And in speaking with Davis McCallum of the Hudson Valley Shakespeare Festival, he connected the three of them, talking about how they all are about the feeling of being dispossessed and almost a sense of alienation. So definitely check that out. A lot of exciting things happening up there, Hudson Valley Shakespeare Festival. In addition to that, there's a ton of things happening around town. And again, you can head over to our various social media locations to catch all of those. Coming up in the coming weeks, we have a chat with our friends over at Gorilla Rep. They have their very exciting film version of Hamlet, which was recently released. We'll be chatting with Christopher Carter Sanderson and cast about that. And you can check our WordPress, our blog, for some of the reviews that we've done about various shows around town. We have a couple of reviews coming up in there, so keep your eyes peeled to that, as well as all the other exciting things we have coming up right here on the New York Shakespeare social media channels. So that all being said, let us jump into our very first interview of the evening, and that is going to be with Nicholas Martin Smith of the Hudson Classical Theater Company. Before we get into the interview, I just want to give a short reminder to any of the guests who will be joining us live here tonight. When you want to join us, again, you have to be on your smartphone or your tablet. If you're on a desktop or a laptop, you can watch the show, but you can't actively join in the discussion. So for our 4 guests of the evening, please remember to, or 5 guests actually, please remember to be on a smartphone or a tablet when I send you the request to join me for the live discussion. So once again, this is Nicholas Martin Smith of the Hudson Classical Theater Company. Let me find him and send him a request to go live. Is Nicholas Martin Smith, Hudson Classical Theater Company. They have their second show of the season, and that is Macbeth. Their first show of the season, actually their third show of the season. The first show of their season was a production of Richard II, and that was, hello, Nicholas.
Hey, I can't hear you, so I got to figure out why.
Oh, okay. Let me see. That's a
There
good
we go.
question.
I got you.
You
How
got
are
me
you?
there, okay?
Yeah. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How is the season going so far, Nicholas? I was just mentioning you guys started up with Richard II
Yeah.
to start off the summer, and then you moved to Emma, and now you are into your third and final show of the season, and that is Macbeth. How has it all been going so far?
Oh, it's been a great season. Yeah, Richard was wonderful to start with, and Emma's one of Susan Lee's adaptations. this is their third Austen adaptation. And it's interesting because we've done the other two, Pride and Prejudice and Sense and Sensibility, indoors. And when we decided on doing Emma, it was basically because it would be beautiful out there with picnics. So, and it was glorious. And now we're in the middle of our run of Macbeth. Yeah.
Okay, and you guys are running through August 21st, I believe, right?
That's correct. Sunday night. It's Thursday through Sunday nights at 6:30. It's at the Soldiers and Sailors Monument on the north patio. And I would get there about no later than 10 after. And just to make sure you can get a seat. And there's no late seating because of there's some fighting. So.
Right. But it's you guys have I've been there before. It's a lovely setup you guys have there. It's a beautiful overlook where you're kind of overlooking a beautiful vista in the park there, and you have the monument underneath it. There's a series of stairs that people can sit on. You also have some additional seating on the sides. It's a lovely way to spend an evening and watch some quality Shakespeare. For those who have been following New York Shakespeare for a while, you might know that Nicholas and Company were one of our award winners last year for their productions. You guys were the winner in our comedy category, and that was for Love's Labor's Lost, right?
Yeah, that was really wonderful. I was very I was very happy about that. So thank you, and for the recognition. We put a lot of work into our shows, but that was very that was very satisfying. Thank you.
Certainly. But this is something that the cream rises to the top, as I say. You guys have been doing quality work for many years, and I'm happy to shine some spotlight on you guys, because it's there are so many theater companies around town, and specifically those doing Shakespeare, and some of the ones who aren't as prominent, let's say, or as don't have the name recognition of a public theater, or some of the bigger guys around town, but you're in more or less kind of in the shadow of them, and you're doing high quality work. How long has the company been around, Nicholas?
I founded it in 2004.
2004.
This is my 15th season, so that blows my mind.
What was the impetus to start the theater company?
I worked with the Riverside Shakespeare Company in that location. We did a couple of performances many years ago. And I was walking through the park one day, and I realized that it really lent itself to a three-quarter thrust, that when I'd worked there previously, the director had used it as a proscenium, but as a three-quarter thrust. And that's when I realized that we could get involved with the audience and be right there and have the audience right there. And that's why I started. And we just did this production of The Tempest, and it went well. So we did one next year.
And over the past, I think it's 19 years, you said? Yeah. Over the past 19 years, you guys have steadily grown and grown. So, as a young theater company, in the time when you were starting 19 years ago, I think there was only maybe 6 or 7 outdoor Shakespeare groups that were really doing anything at that time. There was maybe you guys, New York Classical, Guerrilla Rep, and maybe 3 or 4 others. Yeah. So how do you kind of get a foothold? Yeah, you do your first show, you do The Tempest up in there, but how do you spread that out and get the audience to really get behind you?
It's interesting because we're really kind of grassroots in that we were kind of the unknown presence that people kind of stumbled across, and so we were this kind of this secret, which actually by the 3rd year, the Gothamist was writing articles about us, and suddenly we became something which was really nice.
Right. Yeah. So little by little, word of mouth, you get a good review here, you get a nice write up there. Actors start to talk about hey, I work with these guys uptown, and they're doing some good quality stuff. So you start to build an audience. You start to build up a base of actors that you're working with, and as the years go by, is it challenging to remain in that spot in terms of working out the park permits every year and keeping a good relationship with the park system, or is it the kind of thing where, hey, you guys did a good show here, come back next year, do it again?
Well, they actually embrace us, which is wonderful. We became part of their Summer on the Hudson festival. Our relationship to the parks really started bonding early on because they realized what we were bringing to the park And actually, we became custodians of the Soldiers and Sailors Monument. So we were really taking care of it in a way that no one else was. And we've really worked with them to create the Shakespeare workout. So we work with the public and the community on the Upper West Side. So it's a good relationship.
That's a great reminder. So you do the Shakespeare workouts. Tell us what that's all about.
Well, because of COVID, we had to hold off, but we'll bring it back. It's 3 Saturdays throughout the summer, and we do a workshop for the public, working on Shakespeare's text. We do scene work. We also include stage combat, which is kind of fun, and voice production. And we spend about half an hour on each of those elements, and then we bring them together at the end as a group and talk about the experience and talk about what they learned and things like that. It's really, a lot of people really enjoy it because it's accessible. That's
right. Yeah. I mean, I remember when I was coming up, and this was, a couple of decades ago, when I was coming up in the system, at that time there wasn't, the open Shakespeare workouts. It's like, if you wanted to learn how to perform Shakespeare, either you had to go to the Stella Adler studio or you had to go to, one of the other major studios around town. It was very hard to find, someone like yourselves who's offering something in the outdoors and often free or, more economical than some of the major institutions around town. So the fact that you guys started that and have kept it going and growing for so many years it's a wonderful thing.
Starting the company was really for the community, and also bringing Shakespeare to people who wouldn't otherwise have access to it, and introducing and making it accessible to them. Because people are so intimidated by Shakespeare, by the language, by the idea even, and bringing it to the community through our productions, I feel that it's really an offering and really effective. For example, one of our regulars brought their granddaughter to Hamlet. And after the show, they had to go by Barnes and Noble to pick up a copy of it, because the granddaughter was dying to dig in and read it.
Right. Find out more.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that part of your workouts is fight choreography, and you're kind of beating me to the punch here. One of our other, as I bend down here, one of our other award winners in the 2021 year-end review was Jared Kirby and Seth Dewar for their book, Shakespeare's Fight.
Yeah, that's a magnificent book.
It's a magnificent book. It's fantastic. It's basically it's pretty much any combat scenario that you can think of in the texts of Shakespeare, and Seth and Jared kind of have a dialogue with each other throughout the book about what it is.
And I remember when they started those workshops, it was really fascinating how they started that. One thing about that book, which was really sweet, was Jared actually gave us a shout out, because a lot of the work he did with us ended up in the book in some way, shape, or form, which was very nice of him. No, Jared Kirby's amazing, and New York Combat for Stage and Screen, that organization is, I can't tell you, they're amazing. Tony Mita, who worked with us as an actor, also, he was our fight director on this. Katie Lerner Lamb, who was playing Lady Macduff, is also one of the fighters. And she's worked with us in the Shakespeare workout in the past. So it was great having her on stage as an actress as well as a combatant. It really, a huge part of what came with me to Macbeth was the brutality of it. And so Jared and I were talking as we were crafting this show. It was amazing that we actually went that one step further. And it wasn't... Macbeth says, "I'm going to tend to the sword, his wife, his babes, and anyone." And so we have a kind of, it's the first time on stage, at least Jared said so, where the entire household is brutally murdered. And that's the difference between his setting his murderers, the assassins, on Banquo, and an absolute bloodbath with Macduff. This evolution in his brutality and the length to which he is going is just, so that's part of the journey. That the two things that really stuck out, and that's where I started, because I've been working on this in my head for years. It's wild when you work on something in your head and then you're finally able to put it out there, and it all falls into place, and it actually it's really was Blood and Sleep. Are the two things that just stuck out at me because there's always this conversation about it, both. So that's kind of informed me in this production.
All right, and that kind of leads us to the next issue, which is that you are both the director and the lead actor in this show. So that's a lot of hats to wear, while you're also producing, doing everything else you're doing. So
Yeah.
tell us about the process of putting it all together and how to step from one side of the stage to the other.
Well, it's I've done this 6 times, but nothing. I just Titus Andronicus I did with Jared back in 2015, and I only did it as my AD. I only did it because he was there, and in this case, it was Joe Hamill, who I've been collaborating with for 16 years. He's been with us. He was assistant artistic director from 2007 to 2010.
Wow!
And he's my AD on this, and basically. He brings so much to the table that I don't. I mean, we do complement each other in many ways. So he was a huge, he backed me up. He was there, and I can really trust him. And Jared also.
Yeah, Joe, I've done some stuff with Joe over the years, and he's like a walking encyclopedia of Shakespeare.
It really is amazing. I mean, he's a great actor and he's a great director, which is why I was, I have him in my corner. But yeah, he brings in the tech stuff and things, and the conversations he throws out there, and what do these words, what do these mean, and what else, where else do they apply to, or how? He's just really good.
Okay. All right. So aside from Macbeth, which runs for today is the 8th, that's another 2 weeks you have.
That's right. 8 more chances to see it.
8 more chances to see it. And that is in the Riverside Park up on the Upper West Side.
That's correct.
Under the Soldiers and Sailors Monument. If there's anything we can, any other incentive we could throw out to the audience, why should they come and see this show? What is it? What are they cannot miss about this production?
There are a couple of things besides the stage combat. We have there are 2 things that I really investigated in this one, and that is Lady Macbeth's genuineness, sincerity, and their relationship as a devoted couple, and the fact that so often she's played as kind of a sociopath. Where even in Act 1, Scene 5, when he first tells her, she's already brewing the idea of this murder.
Right.
But it's not until, and then in 1/7, she seems to be berating him. But I don't believe that's the case at all. And it's really that they really, neither of them have a clue what they're going to do. And the fact that she's looking for him and the banquet's going on, she's not looking for him to tell, to explain the plan to him. She's looking for him to find out what's going on with him. Where is he in his head? Because once they get to the part where he says, what if we fail? Whatever questions she was asking are answered in that moment. And then she starts coming up with this plan. But it's not, it's in the moment. It's all in the moment. They have no clue what they're doing. It's just,
right, yeah. And
so often it's played as though she knows what she's doing, and she knows going into this what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. But no, I think even when she's waiting for him to come up from the murder, she's kind of not frantic, but really kind of pulling it together. So
well, I couldn't agree more. I think it's about the discovery of watching these 2 characters make these decisions and kind of improvise and figure this out in front of our eyes.
Right. Yeah, and when he says that, the fear of if we fail, and then he has these daggers. That's a pivotal moment, and she just turns in a split second. Suddenly, that's when she really has this transformation, which I think is fascinating. The other thing was reinvestigating the witches, because I took the Christianity out of it. My feeling was that on these heaths, on the moors, there is more unknowns, and the witches are just part of those unknowns. So it's not as much a shock that they're there. The shock is what they say. The shock is what they tell him. That's what blows him away. And Banquo is just pulled into it. I mean, that's why he's just, well, what's going on for me? And
Right.
it comes out of that. He's fearless. I mean, he says it because they're not to be feared. It's just what they say, which is what. So investigating their relationship to him, and not just in that first scene, but then again in Act 4, Scene 1, when he seeks them out, that moment of the two bookends of finding out and then needing to know the questions at the end. Is Banquo Zisha going to reign in this kingdom? The bookends of that is, I find, thrilling. But and so it's an investigation of the witches and their relationship to him, which is really interesting. I think you'll enjoy it when you see it.
I can't wait to check it out. You guys always do quality work. Now, was it intimidating for you to, at some point when you were deciding on what your season's going to be, to add Macbeth into the season when we had the big Daniel Craig and Ruth Negga Macbeth Broadway?
This is the year of Macbeth. No, we were originally
Macbeth.
going to do this in 2020, and then the pandemic kicked it. And last year we finished up the Dumas series that Susan wrote with the Count of Monte Cristo. So we just put it off till this year, and it just happened. The year of Macbeth, and I just couldn't get away from that. But I wasn't going to put it off any longer.
Well, you guys tend to do a kind of a traditional Shakespeare presentation, where there's usually not, any very, kind of like a different kind of like conceptual spin. No,
we don't do I don't. But what I prefer to do and what I do is take the plays and put them in the context that is going to be more accessible to the audience. Again, it goes back to my firm belief that people who come to see our shows walk away with a clear understanding of Shakespeare and also of this play, and any play we do,
right.
Hamlet's, all of them, is a clear understanding, and that is liberating for people. And the workout is liberating for people because suddenly they have this, they suddenly have this key that opened a door for them. And people have said, I saw your play, as they saw Hamlet years ago, and they said, I finally understood. I finally understood Hamlet, because they didn't. Because what I made accessible were the voices in his head, or his conversations with himself, with the audience, what he's going through. Then they understood things like that.
Isn't that what it's all about? At the end of the day, it's connecting with the audience and bringing them a new understanding.
Exactly. And that's what's also riveting about our space. It's very dynamic. You can be very close to the audience, and also at the same time, you're very far from them, so they get an overall view. But people come 2 or 3 times just to sit in different places. So
wow.
It's very dynamic, very visceral in that space.
Well, I can't wait to check it out, and
Yeah.
I encourage the New York Shakespeare audience to come catch Macbeth from the Hudson Classical Theater Company. Nicholas, where can they come to find out more information and to select a date to come see the show?
Yeah, at our website. You can also join us on Facebook, and we're clearly on Instagram.
Clearly on Instagram. And we'll put a link for you guys in the post-show
Thanks.
wrap-up.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, Nicholas, thank you very much. Congratulations on Macbeth. I hope to check it out, and I urge the audience to check out Nicholas from the Hudson Classical Theater Company. All the best, Nicholas.
Thank you very much.
Good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you.
All right. So that was Nicholas from the Hudson Classical Theater Company, Nicholas Martin Smith, and they have their production of Macbeth playing at the Riverside Park in the Upper West Side, and that goes through August 21st. You should definitely check them out. Our next guest and we had some comments there. We had one of our longtime friends, Melissa Bell, and she's talking about stage combat. Yeah, stage combat in Macbeth is one of the big things. Absolutely, that's what it's all about. Let us invite on our next guests of the evening, and let me find that image. That is going to be our friends from the Frigid Fest, and they have the Little Shakespeare Festival, and that is new this year. I think last year was called something different, and we'll ask them about that. We'll see what changed. So let us invite on our friends Erez, Ziv, and Connor Mullen from the Frigid and find out what is going on with them and their festival. Okay, let's see, where are we here? We have Connor. Here's Erez. Okay, so this is going to be Erez Ziv of the Frigid Fest, along with Connor Mullen. We have Erez on the way. Let's invite Colin to join us as well. And oh, here you are. Okay. All right. So the Frigid Fest. I Connor.
Hi,
Hello there, sir. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I'm talking Shakespeare. I'm chatting with friends, so I can't be in a bad mood. I'm doing just fine.
Best way to spend an evening.
Absolutely, absolutely. So while we're waiting for Erez to join us, and I think he might be having some connectivity issues. Erez, if you're out there, just remember you have to be on a phone or a smartphone or a tablet. If you're on a laptop or desktop, it's not going to connect. So if you need to take a moment to reconnect, by all means do so. Let me try. Oh, Erez is unable to join. Okay, I'm going to try it a different way and ask Erez to join. Let's try if I can do it this way. Let's try like this. Okay, Eris, I just sent you the invite again, and I think you actually sent me the. Oh,
Oh,
here he is. We did it this time. Okay, Eris, Ziv, and Connor Mullen of the Frigid Festival. So, gentlemen, the Frigid Festival, you have right now the Little Shakespeare Festival. And Eris, when I spoke to you last year, we had a very interesting chat last year, but I regret to inform you and the New York Shakespeare audience that our chat was on one of the lost episodes of New York Shakespeare, where usually at the end of the broadcast, Instagram saves the entirety of the program and it's viewable whenever you want on the Instagram feed. Somehow at the very end of our program, Instagram conked out, my internet conked out, whatever it was, and the whole episode was lost. So it's up in the ether somewhere. So we have to recreate the magic of some of that discussion. But at that time, I remember that you guys, it was not called the Little Shakespeare Festival at that time. It was called something else. It was the Solo Shakespeare Festival, right?
Yeah, yeah. We've done this festival a few times now, and originally we had picked one play, and 5 or 6 different companies did the play in various formats, various languages, and we did that for Hamlet, we did that for Midsummer Night's Dream, and then COVID came, and we couldn't really do that. So we did one person Shakespeare, because at that point it was safe to have one person and not anybody rehearsing. And this year we figured we'd keep it in the safe realm with smaller rehearsals, only 5 people max.
Mm-hmm. Ah, so hence the name, the Little Shakespeare Festival, because it's small casts. Very clever. You're thinking like a producer.
We have to keep going somehow.
So, Erez, just to catch up to audience, and Connor, I'll jump over to you in a moment. But Erez, you have been running Frigid, and I think before that it was the Ice Factory, and before that it was something else, right? You've been through various incarnations of this festival for about 2 decades, right?
So this September marks the beginning of our 25th season.
25 years.
25 years, and it started out as Horse Trade and then became Frigid. Ice Factory was somewhere else. That wasn't us.
Okay.
And then now Frigid has a number of festivals that we run every year. There's a storytelling festival. There's a fringe festival. There's a stand-up festival, Estrogenius, The Fire This Time, which is an African American playwrights festival. And this Shakespeare Festival, Queerly Festival.
So, and most of this happens downtown at the Crane Theater, right?
All of it happens at the Crane and under St. Mark's, both of our spaces in the Lower East Side.
Those are your 2 spaces, and the Crane Theater. As an actor, and Connor, I don't know if you had this experience also, but for me, when I was kind of coming up in the scene, it was kind of like a rite of passage that if you wanted to kind of establish yourself in the downtown scene, you had to do something at the Crane Theater. It's kind of like one of the foundational spaces that you have to go through and kind of get your cred and get your strength up of how to do theater in a small space, but for a very demanding audience. Your audience there has seen so many, such a huge variety of shows over there. How many shows have you produced there, Eris?
Uh, Pre-pandemic, an average season of ours included about 1,000 performances. This is not what's happening now.
Now it's happening now. All right.
Back there again someday. But the Crane itself has been a theater since most of our grandparents were born.
It's one of those spaces that if you haven't, as a New Yorker, gone to the Crane Theater, then you really owe it to yourself to go down there just to get a feel. When you walk into that space, you just get the reverberations of the thousands and thousands of performances that have gone on there before you got there. So Connor, at what point did you get involved with Erez and the huge machine of shows that he's producing there? How'd you get involved with the Little Shakespeare Festival?
I ended up involved in a previous version of the festival before COVID, because I was part of a improv Shakespeare group called As You Will. And so we ended up doing a show there when they were doing Midsummer Night's Dream was sort of the show of the festival. And we did sort of we asked the audience for things that were in Midsummer Night's Dream, things that happened, and then we wrote those all down, and then we performed a play in which all those things happened and declared at the end that we had done Midsummer Night's Dream. And that was sort of my first time really getting to work with Frigid in any capacity. And then I ended up bringing As You Will back to the Frigid Fest in January, February, with bringing that improv Shakespeare thing back. And then we had a really great time working there, and we've been sort of trying to come back again and again ever since. And Erez reached out to me saying like, hey, we're thinking about doing like small casts for this next Shakespeare Festival. Would you be interested in helping us put together the lineup and figure everything out? And I was very excited to be a part of that.
So right now, how many different shows are part of the Little Shakespeare Festival?
There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but two of them are double billed together.
Okay. So and what is the festival schedule like? Is it? I remember back, and I kind of refer to this as a Freudian slip at the very beginning of tonight's program. I mentioned the Fringe Festival, and I remember back in the day, maybe like 25 years ago, and I think that's when you were just starting out, Erez. There was another group doing something called the International Fringe Festival, or the New York International Fringe Festival. And it was like, how many shows can you possibly fit into whatever the space was? It was like you can go there at 10 in the morning and come out at 10 at night and have seen like 35 shows or something like that. Unfortunately, that has gone to the wayside. That festival is no longer running. But it seems like you, Erez, have kind of taken that to the current generation.
Well, nothing we do is quite as big as the New York International Fringe Festival was. They were doing 200 shows in 3 weeks, over 200 shows. They were really cooking, and our biggest festival has 30. So it's a little more boutique.
More manageable. And right now you have 5 shows. So what is the schedule like? Is it 1 show a night? Is it 2 shows a night?
It's mostly 1 show a night with a few 2-show nights, and I think we even have a 3-show day at some point. But it's not quite as compressed as a Fringe festival.
Okay, all right. So what's the in keeping with the Little Shakespeare Festival methodology? You have 5 actors or less. What is the runtime for each show? Is it a short runtime? Is it like a half-hour, 45-minute show, or is it a full-length show?
We vary for the various shows. So we have a production of Romeo and Juliet that is a 5-person Romeo and Juliet that runs a little bit more than 90 minutes, and that's, I think, our longest show. Then we have a couple shows about an hour. As You Will, which is in this festival, is 45 minutes long. And then we've got a double bill, Brawls and Burlesque, that is a series of fight scenes from Shakespeare, stage combat, woo. And paired with some Shakespeare and sword-inspired burlesque pieces. And that one is also about like 45 minutes. So you have some options. How much you want to dig into Shakespeare.
So, as you mentioned, Erez, you kind of slowed things down during the COVID era. You were off for, I think, about a year and a half or something like that. And I think that was the longest that the Crane Theater was closed in the history of the Crane Theater. And then you guys came back slowly with the solo Shakespeare Festival last year. Now you're back up to, you know, a 5-person cast with the Little Shakespeare Festival. How has the return of audiences been?
I'll let you know when they all come back. We've spent 25 years accumulating an audience. We lost half of them in the last 2 years. People are just gone, they moved away, they don't go out as much. So it's not easy getting people out. And, you know, folks that used to go see 3, 4, 5 shows a week are seeing 1, maybe 2, and they're seeing bigger shows that they normally don't get a chance because they're so crowded. But all the big theaters are not crowded and they have great deals. So it's still rough. I hear people talk about the post-pandemic era, and I don't know what they're talking about at all.
Right.
But people are coming out. Romeo and Juliet sold out the last performance at 2/3 capacity. So they are out, but not. We're not there yet.
Not there yet. All right. Well, little by little, with the Little Shakespeare Festival, you're slowly but surely working your way back up to bigger and longer shows. If people want to come check out the Little Shakespeare Festival, where can they go to find out about tickets and schedule?
Frigid.nyc.
Frigid.nyc. Okay. Okay. And Connor, are you directing any specific show as part of this festival?
So I've been focused on working with As You Will for our chunk of the festival, which I serve as sort of a producing, directing force / am acting in, because each show is different for this festival. And then I've been sort of doing a little bit of behind the scenes support for some of the other folks.
Okay, and I should mention, you mentioned Stage Combat, that one of your groups that you're involved with is something called the Dispatch Combat Collective. Is that right?
Yes, that's a group of myself and 3 other folks who really were interested in stage combat, and we thought that one of the secrets to being successful at teaching stage combat or doing it for shows was to go in with 2 people and sort of work as a pair, so that you can like watch fights happen, you can bounce ideas off each other, you can demo a move as both the aggressor and the victim of a moment. And so the 4 of us started a stage combat company that does a lot of Shakespeare. If it weren't for Shakespeare, we would not have any money.
All right, right, and listen, you know, one of the reasons I think that you guys are doing the Little Shakespeare Festival, and I think I chatted about this with Erez last time around, is that Erez, you know that people in New York can't get enough Shakespeare. It's a big mover of tickets for whatever the reason is. People can't get enough Shakespeare in New York. I think it's one of the biggest Shakespeare towns in the world, honestly. So you guys have your unique brand on that with your Little Shakespeare Festival. So again, if the audience wants to come check out the show, it is frigid.nyc.
Yeah.
All right, fantastic. So guys, I'm gonna and how long does the festival run? It runs, I think, 1 more week, right?
I believe so. 1 more weekend. Yeah. Weekend, yeah.
Okay, and the schedule is Tuesday through Sunday?
Mm-hmm.
Mostly Tuesday through Sunday. I think maybe we skip the Wednesday. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So Era Ziv, Connor Mullen from Frigid.nyc, the Frigid Festival with their Little Shakespeare Festival. Go check it out. There's a lot of exciting things happening there. Gentlemen, thank you both for joining me tonight, and all the best with the shows.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so that was Connor Mullen and Erez Ziv of the Frigid Festival from, again, it's the Little Shakespeare Festival as part of the Frigid Festival, frigid.nyc. Oh, Jimmy Clevitt says that it runs through the 14th, so that is, you know, just 1 more week, or a little bit less than a week. Today's the 8th, so that's this coming Sunday is when it wraps up. All right, before we go to our final 2 guests of the evening, I want to take a moment. I always mention in our lead up to the show that we'll be playing a game called, or a segment called, I'll Show You Mine If You Show Me Yours. And that, for our foul-minded friends, always starts with me showing you my little Willie. So that is, that's how that always starts out. excuse me, what I wanted to show you this time is that in our Facebook group, in the New York Shakespeare Facebook group, one of the things that was chatted about recently was Bard cards. And Bard cards is a great gift for your Shakespeare fanatic in your household. It is a card set. It's like a trivia game where you have your cards, and on your card is written a quote, and you as the one who's playing the game can read the top part of the quote, and the other person or people have to try to guess the missing word or guess which character said those words or whatever the case is. So it is a fun, great game. I think it's available on Etsy, and it's definitely the gift du jour for the Bardophile in your life. And we also already mentioned the wonderful book, one of our award winners last year, Staging Shakespeare's Violence. That's by two veterans of the New York Shakespeare scene, Jared Kirby of the York Combat for Stage and Screen, and Seth Dewar of the York Shakespeare Company. Also, we mentioned Seth is the fight choreographer for the Hudson Classical Theater Company, and Nicholas Martin Smith, whom we spoke to earlier this evening. All right, and that's me showing you mine. Basically, it's just me showing you what I'm geeking out about, or some exciting things that I find in the world of Shakespeare. If you have something that you want to show me, any of our guests, any of our audience members, by all means, let's see your pictures. Let's see let's show me yours. Show me yours already. Now, let us jump into our final two interviews of the evening. Let us call up our next guest, and that is going to be Sam Gibbs of the Stairwell Theater. Let us invite Sam to join us live. Okay, and the last two guests of the evening are Sam.
Hi, Rodney.
Hey there, how are you, my friend?
I'm all right. How are you doing?
Doing great. So Sam, I was just about to launch into it. You are doing your show as part of the LaMama at the LaMama, etc., the Mama Theater. It's one of the, like the Crane Theater, it's one of the famous downtown theater institutions. It's been around for what, 40, 50 years, something like that?
Yes. Very historic place. We're really, really grateful to be there.
Another one of those places, kind of like Erez's outfit, that's been an incubator of downtown, smaller shows, but helping people kind of get their feet, in the world of New York Shakespeare, and launch into bigger pieces. So right now they have something called LaMama Shares. What is LaMama Shares all about?
Yes. So LaMama Shares is basically just a program. It's an open opportunity for other companies that are not fully produced by LaMama to book their space and do your own show in their wonderful space down there. So it's basically just an opening. It reminds me of Ellen Stewart, who founded the company, and her willingness to bring in young artists and give them a chance to work in their wonderful environment there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So Sam, you are a member of a group called the Stairwell Theater Company. Tell us about this group. When did it start? How'd you get involved?
Yes. So Stairwell Theater Company started in 2015. It was actually, so the group is, it's kind of an ever-shifting group of friends and artists that just want to make Shakespeare together. Started with a group of friends of mine from Lambda, where I had gone to get a master's in classical acting.
For those who don't know, that's the London Academy of Music, Dance, and Art, right?
Yes, very close. Musical and dramatic art.
Musical and dramatic art's close.
We did dance. We did some, we did historical dance, and we did flamenco as well. So we had a little of that. But.
Okay. So you did your studies in London, you came back to the United States, and then you and some friends started the Stairwell Theater Company.
Yes, exactly. I had a group of friends from before studying overseas, and we had a company called Free Theater. That was my first company. That was basically a group of people from UCLA doing theater that was always free, and the intention was to make it very accessible, open to audiences, and even though, in Shakespeare's time, they would have charged a pence to stand in the groundlings area, we were like, well, let's just charge a penny or let people come in for free and have access to these shows. Right. And then it evolved into Stairwell Theater with some of the same friends, but some people had moved on, and we also wanted to charge money for certain shows, so it was nice to change the rules a little bit and fundraise.
All right, so you guys are, the group is formed. You're committed to providing accessible, low cost theater to engage the audience. At what point
Yeah.
do you dive into the current production, which is Henry VI Part Two?
Yes. So this is actually part of a multi-year saga. We did Henry VI Part 1 last year at the Old Stone House in Prospect, not in Prospect Park, but in Park Slope in
Okay.
Brooklyn. And basically, I was thinking about wanting to produce all four Henry VI play, the tetralogy,
Mm-hmm.
and end with Richard III. It just, that saga was really reminding me of current events going on around the world.
Right.
And then the shutdown happened because of the pandemic, and it basically also seemed like a great opportunity with Part 1 to do some outdoor theater and find ways to get around, all the limitations of COVID and,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of, those safety regulations, things like that. So,
Right.
yeah, so we started into the tetralogy, and then, and luckily I got most of the same group of people back to continue the story. But part of the goal is to, and this is always the goal of Stairwell, to really bring to life the specific world of each individual play. I very much believe that Shakespeare allowed his imagination free rein with every story, and he really creates a very whole and specific world for each play. And my goal is to create environments that allow people to step into the specific world of that show, let their imagination go, and see what that world is in
Right.
isolation.
Okay, so how has we talked to Erez and Connor about this, about how audiences in some cases are a little bit reluctant to return. What has your experience been like, your first few performances?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I'd say that we have about the same size audiences that Stairwell was pulling before the pandemic. It's interesting though, because part of Stairwell 2 is to meld classical technique with experimental traditions. So that's part of the reason we're so thrilled to be working at LaMama, because it has such a history. Henry VI Part 1. Oh, sorry, Rodney.
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. LaMama has that history of experimentation and openness to new ideas.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I also did some work in studying at Mabou Mines with Lee Brewer, so I had a real kind of eye-opening experience there with experimental theater.
Mm-hmm.
And, some of our plays have been such boutique experiences in a certain way. We did The Dumbwaiter right before the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
but we actually put the whole play in a cage that was disguised as the basement room from the show. And then near the end, we shone lights through the sides of the cage and revealed that it was a cage trapping these two men with scientists walking around, kind of observing and experimenting on them. So that play only had 30 seats in the first place because we really wanted the audience to feel, like they were also inside that environment. So I think our first show, we had about 70, 75 people in the house or something like that. It's a 100-seating house, but that was pretty full for us. So we were definitely grateful about the response.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of the things that I didn't really allude to during the discussion with Connor and Erez is that, it's not just the fact that people are coming back from the pandemic. It's that during the pandemic, so much has shifted about how the audience spends their entertainment time,
Yes, absolutely.
There's, whereas, maybe 3 years ago, prior to the pandemic, you would see it was more customary for New Yorkers to get out and see, live shows. And now so many people have just shifted into, they're doing Zooms all day at work, and they're into the Netflix and, whatever else, so it's, you're competing with a lot more things now than you were just a couple of years ago.
Definitely. Absolutely. Yeah. It's funny though, because I do sort of feel that because people are on screen so often and we've gotten so used to working and, kind of having hangouts on screens and things like this, that we've also, it's been interesting to sort of tap into what I feel is a hunger for a real live experience that happens right in front of you. As long as it's safe and everything is completely, COVID safe and there's good regulations in place. Happy to give people that experience you can only get from having, another live human being in the room.
Well,
So
that's the magic of theater. That's something that's as much as we're all used to, our Disney Plus and our Netflix and whatever else.
right.
There's something that's that intangible quality of that live performance, that live interaction of having an actor, living and breathing the part right in front of 4 feet from your face, that
Absolutely.
you can't replicate on a screen. So
Yeah.
where can people find out the you guys have, I think it's like 4 performances left. Is that right?
We do, and yeah, they're going pretty fast, to be honest. Because we have the spirit of free theater is still alive. We do have pay what you will tickets, so I do believe it's nice to allow everybody to have the chance to see show, regardless of financial limitation. And then there's $15 suggested donation, but people can get those tickets at stairwelltheater.com. That is where they'll find a link right there. You also may see our stickers around the city. There's been a somewhat comprehensive Henry VI Part 2 sticker campaign. So if you see one, you just scan the QR code with your phone right there, and you can you'll be right at the website.
That's wonderful. That's keeping the spirit of guerrilla style theater.
Yes, that is very much, it warms my heart to keep these traditions alive.
Yeah, you have some love from the audience. We have Samaseta saying "Free theater forever."
Oh yes! My gosh, Sue, who's playing an incredible Duchess of Gloucester. I just would like to give her a shout out right now. She's impeccable.
All right, and yet you have some more love. They can't be beat. I've seen them fire emoji. So we're getting a lot of love. People can come check you out at stairwelltheater.com.
Yes, that's right.
All right, and it's Sam Gibbs from the Stairwell Theater. They are playing Henry VI Part 2 at the LaMama, etc. as part of the LaMama Shares. Sam, it's a pleasure chatting with you. All the best, and we hope to hear not just the great things about this show, but all the next parts of the tetralogy and everything else you have coming up with Stairwell.
Us too. Hope to get to Richard III someday. That one will possibly be in a boardroom, but we're gonna see.
Exciting. All right, Sam Gibbs of the Stairwell Theater. Thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much, Rodney. Thanks for having us on.
You got it. All right, so that is Sam Gibbs of the Stairwell Theater, and they have their production of Henry VI Part 2, and that is at LaMama. Another person who has their production happening at LaMama is our friend Hillary Dennis, and she is doing Hamlet, and I believe this is a 9-person show. Let us call up Hillary. She is also at LaMama Shares, or as part of the LaMama Shares series at LaMama, but hers is happening later this month. Let us call Hillary and ask her to join us, and she is the titular role in Hamlet. She is Hamlet. Hello, Hillary.
Hi.
Hi there. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. So we were just talking to Sam. They are up and running right now at LaMama as part of the LaMama Shares series. You guys are coming up, I think, in about 2 weeks. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. You're running from when to when?
We have 2 performances. So August 7th and 28th. Yes.
Okay. All right. So kind of like we asked the others, how did you guys get involved with LaMama? What's the process? What's the genesis of your group? Tell us everything. What's the story?
Sure. Okay. This is a brain baby of my own. It's a one-off production. This is my first show I'm producing in the city.
Okay.
So I got the idea and started shopping around for venues. A friend of mine had just done a show at LaMama last fall. And so the name came up in my head, and I thought, oh, I'll reach out to them because I know about their belief in experimental theater supporting other time. And they responded, and they've been amazing. No questions of like, what have you produced before? It's just like, great. They make their space available. I've seen a show downstairs theater before. I also have found that it's really helped with marketing because their name is really well known around the city. So it's super exciting to be doing this show there. I have been working with, I co-founded a Shakespeare theater company with a friend in Richmond, Virginia, and we do Shakespeare in a Week shows, and we put on one performance and we have no director, and we work with 7 or 8 actors. We've done this a few times. And so now I've taken that, we want to keep that in Richmond. I've taken that format and now brought it to New York, where I want my career to be, and where I have a few other friends, international friends, who want to have the opportunity to perform in the classical theater scene in New York City. So
here you are.
And I've invited a bunch of friends and hired some other actors I have worked with, some referrals, and we are an 8-actor cast. We have a swing. We're going to rehearse for 5 days and put on 2 free shows.
All right. So now, is this it's a truncated version of Hamlet? What's the adaptation? I'm sure for LaMama, etc., you're not doing 3 hours and 45 minutes of Hamlet. You're doing a much shorter rendition of it.
That's true. Maybe one day we can go to the park, have Armory to see almost the whole thing.
Right.
We're doing a 90-minute cut. This adaptation, or this version, was cut by my Elsewhere Shakespeare co-founder, Mac McDaniel.
Mm-hmm.
We actually did this version with Elsewhere in November of 2019 in Richmond, and it was amazing. So we're bringing that. I'm bringing that script to New York.
Okay.
It can be found for free on elsewhereshakespeare.com.
Okay.
The adaptation, yeah.
So tell me about the process. One of the things that we're hearing from different companies around town is this idea of working without a director, of the ensemble as all equal forces in helping to co-direct or help to imagine the piece as a collective. Tell me about that process.
So I consider myself kind of a beginner still in the Shakespeare world, but my desire to create Shakespeare and produce Shakespeare is stronger than my imposter syndrome, let's say.
Okay.
So rather than coming into a show, bringing people together and saying I'm going to direct, I know that I don't have all the answers, and I've worked with a bunch of people who are much more skilled than I am and have a lot of things to offer. So I find it much more enriching to bring a bunch of really smart, talented actors into the room and let urgency be the director. Is what one of my friends who's in the show has coined that phrase. He finds that urgency as the director in this process. And as the leader, I do set the groundwork. I've gathered everyone, so I want everyone to feel taken care of and heard and safe. But
sure.
Ultimately, yeah, we just get up and we start playing right on day one. We don't do a read through, and what I've done in the past is worked an act a day, and then we sort of braid those acts together, and everyone has great intuition and impulses that they want to follow, and I think it's a beautiful thing. I'm still playing with this process, and it's changing and morphing as we go. But
what you're describing sounds very much like one of the techniques that I was working on at some point during my time, and that was what some people call the rough and ready approach to Shakespeare. Where you're not predetermining a lot of things that are going to be happening on the stage. You're just kind of discovering it as you go along, and you have your cue scripts or your prompts, and you kind of let it happen. And if you hit magic, then you hold on to that and you move on to the next thing. So it's a kind of you're discovering it, and you're almost putting that process of discovery in front of the audience, where you're discovering all the moments in a kind of a spontaneous way. And for some people, there's more reality in that than something that's been rehearsed to death, where you're just doing it in rote, and it's everything is planned and rehearsed and prepared. There's a little bit of unpredictability in this approach that you're talking about.
Oh yeah, it's alive and very exciting.
Okay. So is it intimidating for you? You're saying that you're kind of like, you're relatively new to this whole world. Is it challenging for you to take on one of the biggest and most complex roles in all of the Western literature in Hamlet? You didn't pick I don't know, King John. You picked Hamlet.
Yep. My beginner mind might be a blessing in this situation. But no, I fell in love with this role in conservatory. Started learning the role beginning of 2018. And not only was I forcing my peers to do scene studies with me and bring the scenes to class and whatever, I was taking monologues and searching out coaches to help me with them. I was bringing, anytime I took a class outside of conservatory, I was bringing Hamlet. I had my script with me at my restaurant job. I was studying at the high top table before my shift started. Co-founded a Shakespeare theater company to be able to play the role and take my first stab at it. I TA'd classes in conservatory. I started a text group. Like, I've been studying this role now for over 4 years, and it feels like a part of me.
There you go. So you're not just walking into it. This is something you've been steadily progressing toward for a long time.
I'm so excited.
All right. Well, listen. I think it sounds thrilling, and I can't wait for people to come out and check out your show. If people want to come and see this version of Hamlet, where can they go to find out the information?
So there's a Linktree link in the Hamlet_NYC Instagram, and also on my personal account, which is Hillary G. Dennis. There's Eventbrite ticket reservations. We have a bunch of fundraising campaigns going on right now, and it's also on the LaMama Shares Now Playing website.
Okay. All right. Well, Hillary, I wish you the best of luck. Knock 'em dead, and we hope to see more of you in the future.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Hillary. Good luck with the show.
Thank you.
All right. So that is Hillary Dennis of the production of Hamlet coming up at LaMama as part of the LaMama Shares series. And that is, I believe, August 27th and 28th. You can check out Hamlet_NYC on Instagram and elsewhere for more information. So that is the end of our program here tonight. We had 4 fantastic guests. We had actually 4 series of guests. We had 5 people altogether. We had Nicholas Martin Smith of the Hudson Classical Theater Company. They have their production on Macbeth running through August 21st on the Upper West Side at Riverside Park. We have Era Ziv and Connor Mullen at Frigid NYC, the Frigid Festival as part of the Little Shakespeare Festival, and that is running now. They run through August 14th. We also had Sam Gibbs, and he is from the Stairwell Theater. He is at LaMama right now. They are doing Henry VI Part 2 as part of the LaMama Shares series. And last and not least, we had Hillary Dennis, and she is doing a small cast version of Hamlet, a truncated Hamlet. And that is also at LaMama, and that is going to be for 2 performances, August 27th and 28th. We're getting a lot of love from the audience. I'm very happy to bring all this information to the Shakespeare audience. That's what it's all about. So if you had a great time tonight, folks, thank you so much for joining us. Please send your love right here. And also afterwards, we're going to save this to the Instagram profile. We'll share it elsewhere across social media in the next couple of days. But wherever you see it, please share, spread the word, get more people involved. And no matter what you do, support your local Shakespeare. Go out and see these shows, support the local companies, and help bring Shakespeare back to beyond the peak that it is right now. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, we're at peak Shakespeare. Let's have it even grow even further to where this peak is just a valley compared to the peak that it's going to get to next time around. Have a great night. Support the New York Shakespeare, and we'll see you next time.